It began with the kind of stiff, low-boiling resentment that only builds in high-ceilinged rooms packed with power, reputation, and carefully choreographed symbolism. Karoline Leavitt stood near the velvet rope entrance of the Kennedy Center's main theater, a place where the glassy eyes of American political royalty scanned the crowd with the passive warmth of practiced grace. Tonight was a tribute event for Michelle Obama, a celebration of her work in education, youth development, and global women's rights, with guest speakers including Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, and a slew of international dignitaries. Leavitt, the youngest former White House staffer turned rising conservative firebrand, had been granted a VIP seat through an arrangement no one was willing to take public responsibility for. She wore a bone-white dress, clean-lined and severe, and she carried herself like someone raised in the back row but determined to die in the front one. Staffers buzzed around her, scanning barcodes and checking clipboards. Karoline's press badge caught the light. But it wasn't the badge that got the attention. It was her. Aide after aide glanced sideways, murmuring into headsets, their expressions shifting into unease. Finally, a woman in a navy pantsuit with a Secret Service pin on her lapel approached. "Ms. Leavitt, I'm afraid there's been a reassignment. Your seat is no longer available. We'll need to escort you to an alternate section." Karoline didn't flinch. "Excuse me?" Her voice was sharp, brittle with incredulity. "This was cleared days ago." "There's been an adjustment," the woman replied flatly. "Follow me, please." The language of Washington, clipped, bloodless, lethal. Cameras began to pivot. Karoline held her ground. "You want me to sit behind the curtain after I was confirmed for front row press coverage?" Karoline hissed. "You think I don't know what this is? I've been in enough of these events to smell it from across the damn room." The staffer didn't blink. "It's not personal." But of course it was. Karoline's name had been trending for 48 hours after her latest appearance on Hannity, where she'd mocked Michelle Obama's legacy of photo ops and self-congratulation and implied that Mrs. Obama had benefited from institutional favoritism masquerading as merit. The clip had gone viral. Conservatives praised her as fearless. Liberals accused her of soft racism. The optics were already radioactive. And now, with Michelle Obama about to take the stage to thunderous applause, no one in charge wanted Leavitt in a visible camera shot. She was poison in a bottle of champagne. "If you touch me, that's assault," Karoline warned as the staffer stepped closer. Two security guards flanked her like statues. A few guests began filming. "You're making a scene," one of them whispered. "I am the scene," Karoline snapped. But she walked, slowly, deliberately, past reporters pretending not to stare, past aides who suddenly found their phones fascinating, past Michelle Obama's mother, seated near the aisle, who gave her a disapproving side-eye sharp enough to cut bone. She was led to a far corner balcony seat, obstructed view, surrounded by junior interns and well outside of camera range. She sat down and folded her arms, but her eyes were wide open, and her phone was already in her hand. 5 minutes passed. The lights dimmed. The MC introduced Michelle Obama to roaring applause. And then, just as Mrs. Obama took the stage in a flowing emerald gown, Karoline hit send. Her pre-drafted tweet, prepared the moment she was escorted, fired off into the digital bloodstream. Breaking. I was removed from my assigned seat at Michelle Obama's event for optics. So much for empowerment. This is what censorship looks like when you're a young conservative woman who won't bow to political royalty. The backlash was immediate. Within minutes, the tweet had over 2 million impressions. Conservative influencers and media figures jumped in. Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, even Donald Trump Jr. retweeted it with fire emojis. Hashtags began trending: Shocker VIP Gate, Shocker silencing conservatives, Karoline kicked out. In the control room backstage, Event organizers scrambled. Staffers stared at their phones in horror. The optics had turned inside out. What had been a simple damage control maneuver was now a national story. Then the phone calls began. A representative from the Obama's foundation demanded answers. The PR team from the Kennedy Center looked pale. A board member began yelling over the phone in full view of others. "Who approved her removal? Who the hell made that call?" No one raised their hand. No one wanted to be tied to the fallout. By the time Michelle Obama was midway through, her speech, a decision had already been made, quiet, swift, unceremonious. 3 senior event organizers were informed they were being placed on indefinite leave. By the time the show ended, the entire logistics and press operations team had been asked to submit resignation letters. The silence was volcanic. Careers, some, decades in the making, had been obliterated in an hour, all for moving one woman out of a chair. Backstage, the walls practically hummed with tension. Michelle, unaware of the exact drama but sensing something in the crowd had shifted, spoke to her husband in a tone audible only to him. "What happened?" Barack glanced at his phone, his jaw tightening slightly, then sighed. "Karoline Leavitt," he said simply. Michelle's expression flattened. "Of course." Elsewhere, in a now nearly empty coat check room, Karoline was doing an interview via earpiece for Fox Nation. "They couldn't let me sit down. They couldn't even let me exist in their frame," she told the host. "And now they're scrambling. They fired the entire staff over this. Do you know what that tells you? Guilt, fear, arrogance. I'm not the story. They are." She paused, then leaned into the camera. "And now the world knows it too." Her phone buzzed again. Requests. For interviews from Newsmax, The Daily Caller, The Federalist. Invitations to fundraisers. A possible book deal proposal already sitting in her inbox with the subject line, "The seat they couldn't let me have." Outside the Kennedy Center, Karoline stepped into a waiting black SUV, photographers flashing as the door closed. In the rearview, she caught a glimpse of the building glowing against the DC night. Somewhere behind those walls, staffers were being walked out. Careers were ending. And she hadn't even raised her voice. Not once. But the final twist came, later that night. Around 2 a.m., while most of the city was asleep and the pundits were still parsing the political fallout, a new video surfaced, raw, grainy, clearly from a back hallway security feed. In it, Karoline was seen having a conversation, smiling, laughing, even shaking hands, with the very woman who had escorted her out. The exchange was casual, even warm. Then, Karoline handed the staffer a folded note. The woman nodded. The feed ended there. Within minutes, speculation erupted. Had it all been staged? Had Karoline planned to be removed for maximum exposure? Was this a political stunt so brazen it shattered the boundary between victimhood and theater? Conservative outlets dismissed the footage as out of context. Liberal ones declared it proof of manipulation. A second, clearer angle leaked 2 hours later. Karoline mouthing the words, "This is going to be perfect." The internet detonated. Allies began to distance themselves. Donors pulled back. By noon, Fox had canceled. Her follow-up interview, the SUV ride, the tweet, the note, the staff walkouts, all of it suddenly smelled like performance art, and nobody likes realizing they were cast in someone else's scene. That afternoon, Karoline walked through Union Station alone. No cameras, no entourage. She stopped at a newsstand. Her face was on the cover of 5 tabloids, some worshipful, some damning. She picked up one and smirked. Then, without a word, she set it down, pulled her coat tight, and disappeared into the crowd. No farewell, no statement. Just the cold echo of heels and the quiet collapse of a story that had eaten itself alive. The silence following her departure didn't last long. By the next morning, Washington's rumor mills were churning at full speed. morning talk shows. Lit Up, Morning Joe ran a full segment titled The Theater of Victimhood, while The View featured Whoopi Goldberg railing, "You don't get to cry foul after scripting your own ambush." Across town, former Kennedy Center staff members were leaking emails and messages to sympathetic reporters, text threads that showed growing anxiety in the hours before Karoline's arrival, and at least one message, marked 6:42 p.m., that read, "We've just been informed Leavitt is in row A. Fix it quietly. Do not escalate." The problem: the escalation hadn't come from the staff. It had come from Karoline. Every interaction was now being dissected like a crime scene. Inside the DNC headquarters, senior advisors huddled. "We either let this fade," one said, "or we make damn sure she doesn't rise again." "She wants us to punch back," another argued. "That's her game. Victim, martyr, bestseller." Still, there was something dangerous about the precision of it all. Like she had measured the timing, the walkout, the fallout, down to the minute. That kind of control wasn't just media savvy, it was predatory. "She's not just playing the game," murmured one strategist. "She's writing new rules." But Karoline wasn't untouched. Behind closed doors, the storm was beginning to turn inward. Her PR team, young, eager, and until now intoxicated by her rapid rise, was fracturing. "You lied to us," her chief digital strategist said in a closed meeting the next day. "You said this would expose the liberal elite, not get a dozen people fired." Karoline sat still. "They weren't fired because of me," she replied.